All right, we got everybody?
Almost.
Oh, wait for Merrily. All right, well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us for our press briefing today. Today, we are going to be talking about Adoption Month here in Nebraska. And so I am being joined by our Director of our Division of Children and Family Services, Stephanie Beasley from the Department of Health and Human Services, as well as the CEO of Compass, Ryan Stanton, and then also the Executive Director for the Nebraska Foster and Adoptive Parent Association, Felicia Nelson, and then Marilee Bradley, who is one of our not only foster but also adoptive parents. So, and we have Gloria with us as well. So, and her family as well, going to join us a little bit. So, one of the things that we always strive here in Nebraska is to be able to improve upon the good life for all of our people, and that includes our youngest Nebraskans, our kids. And many of us take for granted that family we grew up here in Nebraska, right? The family is the basic unit of society. It's the foundational unit of society. And as we are often welcomed into that family, we tend to take it for granted, but it becomes that home base for us, that security that provides that loving home so that we can all grow up and flourish. But we know there are some Nebraskans who don't have that. We have the children that are in our foster care programs. And then these are the kids are often waiting for their forever families. And we want to encourage those families that are thinking about adoption and encourage them to do that, to be that forever family for that child that is in our foster care system today. Now, what we've seen, last year we had about 360 adoptions coming out of our foster program. And so far this year, we're at 304, so we're about on track at the same rate, about 30 a month. But in the previous years, we actually were doing more like 500 adoptions a year. And we've got 646 kids right now that are in our system waiting for those forever families. And nationally, that number is about 100,000. So there are lots of opportunities for those families. And we think what's happened is the pandemic has created uncertainty, obviously, for everybody in every walk of life around the globe. We think that that has impacted the ability to be able to do these adoptions. And so we want to encourage those families that are thinking about it to please step up and get involved, be that adoptive family. It's a great way to be able to provide that child a home. They can have that, again, that loving family, that forever family, so that they can flourish. Here in Nebraska, we've done a lot of things, and Stephanie Beasley and her team have worked really hard. And we've improved the quality of life for children here in our state. The Annie Casey Foundation gives out a ranking every year of all 50 states and where we rank. And in 2019, we ranked number 12 according to their rankings. In 2020, we were number 9, and this year, 2021, we are ranked number 7. So we're making steady progress on improving the lives of children here in our state. An adoption is another way to do that, to help improve the lives of children here in our state. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sign this proclamation, and then I'm going to turn it over to Stephanie, who will then say a few words about this, and then she'll turn it over to Marilee to say a few words as well. I think Marilee, we're going to have a treat seeing your entire family up here, so that's going to be fun. And anyway, so we will move forward with proclaiming November as Adoption Awareness Month here in the state of Nebraska. We got that. Stephanie, I'm going to present that to you and turn it over to you.
Good morning. Thank you, Governor Ricketts, for issuing the Adoption Month proclamation. Your support and understanding of the important role of our foster and adoptive parents is appreciated. Thank you, Felicia Nelson, from the Nebraska Foster and Adoptive Parent Association. And I want to thank in advance our next speakers, Marilee Bradley, and her wonderful family is here to support today, and then Ryan Stanton for attending and speaking. We are here to celebrate Adoption Month, which is an opportunity to raise awareness for children needing adoption. By issuing this proclamation, we are joining our national partners at the Children's Bureau and the Administration for Children and Families in our celebration of adoption. I am personally grateful for our adoptive parents who have provided a sense of belonging and family for our young people. Adoption is a cornerstone of our child well-being system and has been celebrated nationally in one form or another for several decades. In 1984, President Ronald Reagan proclaimed the first nationally observed Adoption Week, while Bill Clinton proclaimed the first nationally observed Adoption Month in 1995. Since that first national proclamation, many states have begun recognizing Adoption Month as a critical tool to raise awareness for children that remain in foster care and need families to provide a permanent home. The Children's Bureau set the theme for this year's Adoption Month as Every Conversation Matters. Every conversation matters means taking into account the voices of children in every step of the adoption process. Every child has a unique set of circumstances, likes, dislikes, and interests that assist us in finding the right adoptive family. At DHHS, our team has personal conversations with all children needing adoption as well as families seeking to adopt. Our conversations and engagement of youth in care allow us to understand the unique experiences of youth in care and recognize their strengths and talents. Our team works closely with each youth to assist in their journey to achieve their goals regarding adoption and permanency. As the governor mentioned, the number of adoptions in 2020 decreased from prior years. The pandemic has impacted us all in many ways, and now, more than ever, we need Nebraskans to consider adoption. Family stability can provide a sense of belonging and refuge for many of us. That sense of belonging connects us and provides a foundation of support. Families seeking to provide that loving home are needed, and we have children waiting for adoption in Nebraska. DHHS staff realize sometimes parents face barriers and children are impacted, and from time to time, families cannot meet a child's needs. This is the very reason we work to provide a space for families to pursue adoption and seek assistance. I also want parents to know that adoption is not a failure on their part. It is often the most difficult decision a parent would make. There are professionals every step of the way to provide assistance and counseling. Every time I talk to an adoptive or foster family, I hear how the experience has impacted their lives powerfully. This is an experience that doesn't end at adoption. It is the transformation families will experience for their lifetime. I urge any Nebraskan considering adoption to call the Nebraska Foster and Adoptive Parent Association hotline at 1-800-7-PARENT. You're going to hear more about that from Felicia. Adoption follows a set process and can take time, but after calling the hotline, you'll be asked basic questions, get scheduled to attend training classes, and finally, a case manager will be sent to your residence to complete a home study. There are a lot of great resources for families that adopt, such as the Nebraska Children's Home Society, and their hotline is 844-463-0009. Although this is Adoption Month, adoption is not the only way that you can transform a child's life. There is a constant need for foster families in Nebraska. We need foster families, and you will change the life of a child as well as your own. We have a team ready to assist you if you're interested in fostering, and you can also contact that same support number, 1-800-7-PARENT. Thank you again for all of our families that choose adoption. I'm going to turn it over to someone who I admire a great deal. She has both fostered and adopted and has opened her home and family to many children. Welcome, Marilee. I'm going to have a chunk of my family come up because they're super cute. Hey, are you good? Thank you so much for having us here. Thank you, Stephanie.
Don't hide behind mom.
My name is Marilee Bradley, and on behalf of my family, this is a chunk of them here, not everybody, there's a lot of us, I want to thank Governor Ricketts for having us here today to represent adoptive families in Nebraska. When we first pursued adoption, it was because we wanted to be parents, and that was not working out in the way that it typically does. During that time, we were working in a group home with teenage boys that we weren't able to provide permanency for because they were not legally adoptable. Through that experience, we knew we could love children that weren't biologically ours, and we knew we were passionate about being parents. Even when the process was difficult, that driving desire to be able to offer love and home and family kept us going. So about 17 years ago, we began the international adoption process that led us to our oldest son, and then we became licensed foster parents, which eventually allowed us to adopt 4 more children, and we're currently providing foster care for a sibling of our daughters. Along with our 2 biological kids, that means we are a family of 8. That was not our plan, but it's so much better than the plan we ever dreamed of for our family. When we entered the adoption world, we were excited to become parents, but like every first-time mom and dad, we were unaware of how much it would change our world. The ways parenthood changed us were sometimes familiar and expected. We learned how our child liked to be fed and what his favorite stuffed animal was and which lullabies were most soothing. But we have also been uniquely shaped by parenthood through adoption in less familiar ways. The act of adoption is a moment that happens one time before a judge when we become family. Before the law, before God, and through our deep love for each other, we make a lifelong commitment. But that one moment has shaped so much of who our family has become. We've learned what it means to be trauma-informed parents. We've learned how to answer the hard questions our kids ask, but most of all, we've learned how to make space. We've made space for relationships with biological parents that we value and respect. We've made space for education as we seek to help our kids get their needs met in their schools, churches, and relationships, and as we seek to always be learning how to best support them. We've made space for advocacy work as we've partnered with organizations in Nebraska to help clarify laws and policies that benefit foster children and adoptees. We've made space for volunteer opportunities as I've worked as a member of a foster care review board to use the experiences we've gained to help other children and families as they navigate a complicated system. We've made space for our kids to come to their own conclusions about adoption as they hold in tension the beauty of what our family is and the grief of what they've lost. We've made space for listening to adult adoptees and those who know more than we do about the culture and history of our children. And we've made space for siblings as we've gotten surprise phone calls about children who need to be raised together. Adoption allowed us the opportunity to meet as strangers and legally become family. We chose our children, but we are very aware that as they get older, they have choices to make too. They can choose us, and we want to be the kind of parents they want to choose as we work to model for them love, empathy, forgiveness, and grace. Adoption has given us the great gift of getting to be their family, and there is not a day that we take it for granted. We also regularly remember the kids out there just like ours who are still waiting for a family to call their own. They have challenges and strengths, and becoming their family will change the kind of parent you are too. You'll learn and grow in ways you didn't expect, but that will make you the kind of person you always needed to become. Adoption is not the happy ending to a child's story because it is just the beginning. Families like mine can thrive when we have the love, understanding, and support of our community around us, knowledgeable teachers, empathetic therapists, nurturing grandparents, encouraging coaches, and listening friends. While only some of us will end up fostering or adopting children, there is a role for everyone in our community to play when it comes to helping these kids and families flourish. We are grateful for the many people who have actively supported our family and loved our kids well. These kids are totally worth the investment, and they already talk about how they want to advocate for other kids in the future. I may be biased, but I think each of my kids are the absolute best human beings God ever made, and I am forever thankful that I get to be their mom. Now, Ryan, you want to come talk?
Nebraska children deserve a happy and fulfilled childhood beyond their imagination. Yet, happiness is out of reach for hundreds of children right in our own neighborhoods. It's impossible to dream of a bright future when your family struggles with complex issues such as housing insecurity, mental health struggles, unemployment, addiction, domestic violence, and more. A child's fullest potential is launched from an upbringing based in safety, security, and belonging. This was the case for one such girl. At 5 years old, bedtime routines were completely foreign to Amy. She was constantly afraid of running out of food. She called everyone she met Mom and thought it was normal to move from place to place, from week to week. Life was about survival. But Amy was adopted last month by a Compass foster family, and now she has a best friend. A best friend. She loves to dance, she loves to sing, and she's no longer looking for a mom amidst strangers. She knows who her mom is. Best of all, Amy has seen God answer her specific prayers through the past 3 years. Her faith, even as a little girl, has grown in the midst of struggle. Amy's story is one of many as I work with foster and adoptive families in central and southwestern Nebraska. My name is Ryan Stanton, and I'm the CEO of Compass. Compass wants to see families successfully navigate life. We help adoptive families by providing a night out for those families, where our staff and approved volunteers provide food and activities for the children while parents can have the night off. We provide ongoing monthly consultation and help coordinate other respite homes if the adoptive family needs assistance. As we were able to reflect about the unbelievable progress that Amy has made, it reminds me of so many families I know right here in Nebraska who have opened up their home to live life alongside a child who isn't biologically theirs. With November being Adoption Month, it's a great time to celebrate adoption, both the joys and the sacrifices it often involves. There are events planned all over the state to celebrate adoption this month. Because of the role that Compass plays in helping to facilitate, prepare, and support adoptive families, we have helped sponsor and volunteer for many years at our local Adoption Day event in Kearney. There's a quote from my friend Jason Johnson that says, "Not everyone is called to do the same thing, but most certainly everybody can do something." So what is your something? You may not be able to adopt right now, but could you call your local DHHS office and offer to volunteer for the Adoption Day event? Could you bring a meal to someone you know that's adopted or is going through the process of adoption? Could you offer to run errands, take a child to an appointment, get groceries, or mow their lawn? Or there might be a request on careportal.org that you could help support an adoptive family by providing a tangible need. Or you could send a gift card or send them an encouraging text message. The possibilities are endless. And consider this your nudge to step up and do something. The children in Nebraska need you.
Good morning, I'm Felicia Nelson. I am the Executive Director of the Nebraska Foster and Adoptive Parent Association. And our mission is to empower, support, and advocate for Nebraska families by promoting safety, permanency, and well-being of our children. Today we're raising awareness of National Adoption Month and all of those that are changing the lives of our most vulnerable children. We're here to appreciate all the adoptive families, whether they're licensed foster parents, kinship, relative families, that are stepping up to provide permanency for the children in foster care. These families, along with these dedicated and compassionate professionals, like the caseworkers, the agencies, the judges, the lawyers, the lawmakers, and so many others, that are working toward the best interest of these abused and neglected children. They work on the front lines and they work behind the scenes, making a significant difference to the children in foster care. So I want to say thank you. There's an increasing number of foster youth and young people living in foster care that are not finding permanency. These children are our future. There is a great need for foster and adoptive parents to step forward. I can't say it enough. We do need you. Now, many children ask me, how can I help? One way is talk to a foster or an adoptive family and just find out more about their experiences. You can attend an event that's in your area just to learn more. But I encourage you to call the 1-800-7-PARENT line. You're going to talk with myself or one of my staff, and I've got amazing staff. They are foster parents, adoptive parents, relatives, and kinship. They're going to answer your questions, and they're going to lead you on your journey to becoming a foster parent. This way you're going to help a family in need. So please think about how you can play a part in enhancing the lives of children and youth in foster care. I encourage you each to get involved, either as foster or adoptive parents, supporting foster or adoptive families, or just saying thank you to those that work tirelessly to ensure that these children have a bright future. If your heart is guiding you, this is no better time than now to get involved. So I want to thank you, Governor Ricketts, for signing this proclamation and recognizing November as National Adoption Awareness Month.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ryan. It's actually one of the opportunities, not only do we have with the proclamation for Adoption Awareness Month, but also to recognize folks like Ryan and Felicia who are working to advocate for children that are in the system. So thank you both very much for being here. And Marilee, thank you very much for bringing up your beautiful family. Appreciate it. That's awesome to see them. And did they get out of school? The kids get out of school for this? Oh man, that's awesome, right? You guys got out of school for that? It's a pretty good deal. I heard you're also getting paid with donuts too. So, cool deal. All right. So, we'll go ahead and open it up to questions and answers. And as usual, we'll take questions on this topic. And then if we run out of questions on that, we'll go ahead and move on to other topics. Grant.
So, 360 last year, 304
So far this year. Yeah.
Has the number ever declined for it? I guess, has it generally stayed stable? Did it increase? What's the trend line here?
So I will actually let Stephanie hit upon that, unless you, because I was looking over the numbers. The years prior to 2020, we were around 500. It kind of bumped around a little bit. Sometimes we were like 547. Sometimes we fell into the 400s, like high 400s. And if you go back a decade, that number was like in the 200s, 300s. So it has gone up over the last couple of decades, or at least the last decade and a half or so. But we see that probably for 4 or 5 years we were sustaining like 400 or 500 adoptions a year, and then it dropped to 360 last year. Now, Stephanie, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add.
That's exactly right. We've seen
Yeah.
the decline during the pandemic.
Yeah. So it's really been during the pandemic that we've seen that number fall off. Martha.
And going along with that, do you have more children waiting now for adoption than you did before?
So the 646 is slightly above normal, so it's a little higher than normal, not outrageously higher than normal, but it is higher than what we would normally expect. But that's also true in some of our other areas where we've seen just, for example, the courts have been slower to move on things, and so we are seeing that we do have a slightly higher number than normal of kids that are in foster care. Yeah.
I have a question for
Andrew.
Bradley. If there was one thing that you think that we could do better in the state to help adoptive parents, what would that be?
I think,
Repeat the question, please.
sure. If there was one thing we could be doing better in the state to help adoptive families, what would that be? I think the informal support networks at your church, in your neighborhood, at your schools, I think those are vitally important for adoptive families. To ask the questions, how are people doing, what do they need, to come alongside families that might be struggling. I think a lot of people have an understanding that adoption is the end, that then that's the happy ending to the story, and to acknowledge that sometimes there are ongoing needs for support and for encouragement, that everybody in Nebraska can play a part in doing that for each other, that it's not just the work of our paid professionals, but of neighbors and aunts and uncles and friends.
And what was Thanksgiving like?
Oh my goodness. we divvy up. Thankfully, we have family in town, and so we're each bringing dishes, but it will start very early in the morning with a whole lot of cooking and getting everyone dressed, which has to happen at the last minute because everyone will spill on themselves. It's a very loud, beautiful affair.
Thank you. I bet Thanksgiving is a lot of fun. Other questions on Adoption Month? All right, seeing none, I'll just thank everybody. Thank you very much for joining us, everybody. Appreciate it, and appreciate all that you do for our kids here in the state. It's great. And I really thank you so much for bringing your beautiful family. It's great to see you. All right, so now and Stephanie, don't forget to take this with you. All right, we'll open up to questions on other topics. Yes, Martha?
Governor, do you have any thoughts or reactions to the Nebraska fans who were yelling at the opponents in volleyball?
Yeah, so the question was, do I have a reaction to the Nebraska fans who were yelling at the volleyball players from Maryland who knelt during the national anthem? And as I have long maintained, I think it's disgraceful to kneel during the national anthem, especially when you're talking around Veterans Day. We have people who died for this flag, and to kneel, I think, is very disrespectful. Having said that, however, we're also known as having the best fans in college sports, and so two wrongs don't make a right here. Our fans should be respectful to the teams that come in from other places. Generally, we do a great job of doing that, and so I'd encourage Nebraska fans to remember that we have a reputation for being great fans, and that means that we treat everybody respectfully. Yeah, Andrew.
Governor, how concerned are you about, possible exodus of teachers, burned out teachers leaving our schools? And is there anything in the works that the state can do, like giving bonuses or stipends or incentives to keep them in?
Yeah, so the question was with regard to teachers getting burned out, and is there something the state can do along those lines? I would say that really what we're seeing is the stress that the teachers feel are things that many professions are seeing. We're certainly seeing it, for example, among healthcare workers. And we know just in general that there are a shortage of the number of people available to do just about any job. That's one of the reasons why that we sat down with the different unions that represent our teammates here at the state, most recently with the Fraternal Order of Police, where we negotiated pay increases for our corrections officers because we are recognizing that we had declining number of applications coming in and increasing number of vacancies. So I think this is not something that is just about one profession. I think we're seeing this all across the state. And I think it's going to be up to all employers to be able to figure out what the best way to tackle that is. When we're talking specifically about our schools, that's going to be up to local school boards to address those. Certainly if there's things that the legislature wants to come back and talk about, we're certainly open to talking about that. But primarily our schools are managed at the local level by local school boards, and so I'd encourage those local school boards to start working with their teachers to figure out what do we need to do to start attracting more people. That's the steps we took for our Department of Corrections to be able to attract and retain more folks.
But aren't they kind of caught in a catch-22 because it would mean that they would have to increase their property taxes possibly?
So the question is, well, does that mean that you might have to increase your property taxes? And I'd say that, again, what the approach we've taken at the state is to manage our overall operations to be able to control expenses and to be able to live within a budget even with the pay increases that we're offering. So we've managed that at the state to be able to maintain that, and I encourage all other entities to do the same sort of thing. And it's not just about pay either, right? It's about addressing some of the other things like we've done in our Department of Corrections around professional development, making sure people have, in our case, the right equipment and so forth, that we've done to be able to address some of those issues, to be able to attract and retain talent. So I think it's more than just pay. It's also about what kind of work environment are you creating, what are you doing for professional development, are people feeling appreciated, all that.
Would you consider types of programs that you have, like with the National Guard or something like that, where you help pay for education, their education if they agree to stay in a Nebraska school, or even help psychological, some mental health help for some of the burnout teachers?
Yeah, so the question was with regard to we consider additional programs for teachers like we've got in other things, and I think actually, Andrew, many of the things you're talking about actually do already exist out there, and like I said, doors open to if there's things that the legislature thinks that we can do to improve upon that, or if the Department of Education, which again, reminder, the Department of Education does not report to me. They have a separately elected board. They have their own commissioner that does all that. But if there's something that they have that they would be interested in, the door's open to talk to them as well. Yeah, you're right.
The Nebraska Chamber of Commerce and Industry recently identified among its members workforce shortages as one of basically the top priority they face. And I know you've done a lot to try to address that here in Nebraska, but can you talk about how much of a challenge
Yeah, so the Nebraska State Chamber said the workforce is one of their biggest concerns, and certainly with our low unemployment rate, record low unemployment rate, not only for our state, but for the country, that's a challenge. And that's why, frankly, this is not a new thing, right? That issue existed pre-pandemic that we were working to address, and that's why going back to 2015, we started working on our career pipeline to develop our talent here in Nebraska. So starting with the Developing Youth Talent Initiative and the grant program, that's reached now 22,000 students in, I think, 59 school districts. We see that when we get young people engaged in 7th and 8th grade in things around manufacturing and technology and so forth, that if they can follow that up into a career academy, which many of our high schools offer now, they get that hands-on experience, they can start learning, getting some post-secondary education credit, and then follow that up in a 2-year, 4-year degree. And we just passed our career scholarships to be able to help that. We've really started creating that career pipeline, starting in 7th and 8th grade with the Developing Youth Talent Initiative, high school career scholarship or career academies, and then the career scholarships for those 2-year and 4-year degrees, not to mention the registered apprenticeship programs, the ICAD apprenticeship program that we're working on with our German manufacturers. So we've got a lot of things to start training up those folks and getting them prepared to take those jobs that we've got available. And we've got lots of great jobs available. And in fact, I would note that our manufacturing employment is now higher than when it was pre-pandemic, right before we've crossed over 100,000 people that are in manufacturing. So actually, manufacturing jobs have actually bounced back higher than pre-pandemic. And then, of course, that's one of the reasons why we're also looking to attract people to our state with the Good Life is Calling campaign. So we just announced that a few weeks ago, where we're running ads in places like Minneapolis and Chicago and Denver and Kansas City, as well as places like Silicon Valley and Austin, to be able to attract those former Nebraskans, those Nebraskans who maybe left the state, and remind them what a great quality of life we have here, especially compared to what they may have experienced in those large urban areas, and get them to move back to the state, as well as those folks who, again, were in one of those large urban areas where the quality of life was not as good as Nebraska during the pandemic, and get them to think about, hey, you should come and move here, especially when so many people can work remotely now. Come to Nebraska, experience a great quality of life, great commute times, great people, all that, you can do it from right here. So it's a there's not going to be one silver bullet grant that addresses all the different things that we have to do, but it's developing that pipeline of our current talent that we've got here in the state, and then looking to draw new talent into the state as well.
They also say that it sounds like they would like to see the state use some of the American Rescue dollars that we're going to be getting in the next session to try to either expand some of the programs or do some of the initiatives, sort of like what you talked about. Is that something you're open to?
So with regard to the American Rescue Act plan dollars, or the ARPA dollars, certainly we're looking at those opportunities right now. If the chamber has specific ideas, they should reach out to my office and let me know. But there's also going to be restrictions on what those funds can be used for. There was more flexibility, for example, with the CARES Act money than the ARPA dollars. So there may be restrictions on what we can actually use those dollars for. Other questions? Yes, Martha.
Can you comment on the rising trends in COVID cases in the state? Is there something more that needs to be done to bring that back down again?
So with regard to, we've seen some increased hospitalizations. I think we were running around, 410 or so. I think we popped up to 455, which is still less than half of where we were during our peak a year ago, November. So I think there's plenty of hospital capacity. In fact, as I was looking at the ICU and the med-surg beds, we're generally running 15 to 25%, so there's still plenty of capacity in the system. But having said that, we also encourage people to get the vaccine. So if you haven't been vaccinated yet, please consider that. If you have questions about it, then go talk to your healthcare professional with regard to that. But again, this is something, as I've mentioned the coronavirus in the past, the coronavirus is something that is going to be with us forever. So this is never going away. We just have to learn to manage it. And then so that's what we're doing right now, is we're just going to have to manage it. And that's where encourage people to get the vaccine. That's our best defense against the virus. It'll help create the antibodies that will help you fight off the virus. So encourage people to do that, especially if you're older You know, most of our fatalities come in people who are 65 years and older. It's 83%. And I think we've done very well here in the state. I think we're ranked number 14 or so with regard to the number of seniors who are vaccinated, approaching 90%. So we want to continue to encourage people to get the vaccine. It's our best defense against the virus. Andrew.
You want to comment at all? We have the first Democrat that has put her name in for bid to run for first congressional district. Can there be more?
I'm sorry, can you say, so a Democrat has put her name in to run for the first congressional district?
Yes.
Talking about Senator Pansy Brooks?
Yes, yeah. I mean, do you think that there's going to be a more contested race this year? And how about your support for Senator, or for Congressman Fortenberry? Has it wavered at all?
So with regard to Congressman Fortenberry, obviously he's under indictment from the federal government, and I have known Congressman Fortenberry to be a man of integrity, and so I can't believe he would knowingly take dollars from a foreign source. But obviously he's got to go through his trial to exonerate himself. And with regard to the congressional race, they're contested every year. So we have candidates, you know, in all of our congressional districts running every year. Do I think that this presents an additional challenge for Congressman Fortenberry? I think it does present an additional challenge for Congressman Fortenberry. But, you know, again, he's got to go through his process with regard to the court, and we'll have the election. Martha.
Following up on that, he's accused in court not of knowingly taking this money, but of lying about what he did know and giving false statements to the FBI. Do you have comments about that?
So again, I'm not privy, so the question was, he's being accused of giving misleading statements to the FBI, and do I have comments about that? I'm not privy, you know, the FBI doesn't talk to me about what their case against Congressman Fortenberry is. I only know what I read about in the paper. And again, I know Congressman Fortenberry to be a man of integrity, and, you know, the government's gonna have to prove their court, and, you know, their case in court. And again, I might remind people, innocent until proven guilty, right? That's our system. Any other questions? All right, folks, thank you all very much. Appreciate you taking the time this morning. Have a great rest of your week.